Hello everyone. Welcome to the YouTube Mile Builders Thursday night general hangout. Thursday's hangouts are for the general discussion on mile railroading that we all can set a topic to discuss for the night. Thursday's hangouts are the proud sponsor of the Tuesday night presentations, the YouTube Mile Builders, eMag, and the YouTube Mile Builders live show. I want to say thanks for everybody joining in tonight's show. And here's your host for the night, Johnny Reb of Southeast Rails. Alrighty, how's everybody doing tonight? Don't forget your mics are muted if you're trying to talk.
Not bad. Get by.
Doing good.
That's good. Yeah, we're starting to get a few people. We got Steve Riley, got Cabana Bob, North Star, Marcus. We got Ron and Dan and AJ and Ralph and Andy over here in the panels. So yeah, Randy's Rock and Roll Railroad, McCarter. Woohoo! Made it. Okay. Hey, Joey. Well, AJ, you haven't been in the show for a little while. What's going on?
Well, let's see. After I was last on the show, the next morning I woke up and I wasn't able to use my hand. I inflamed the carpal tunnel nerves and whatnot, and yeah, a week of icing that, finally got that fixed, and then I got bronchitis. But I have been busy. As you can see on the screen, the 2-rail O-scale module layout is not in my office. It is in the kitchen. That will be its home.
I take it you're single.
Yes.
Awesome. Sorry, I don't know what gave me that impression, but
yes. I don't have to answer to anyone else about the apartment and its condition.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
My wife's been begging me to put a model railroad in the kitchen.
Oh, I'm sure that's true.
So far, the bedroom, however, is the one room that has not been invaded by trains yet. But
that's the only room I invaded. I took the bedroom.
yeah.
She doesn't let me leave it down, though.
Yeah. I felt that putting it on top of the file cabinets in my office, it was simply going to be too high and too deep and not easy to work on. So it's a 8-foot by 16-inch, 17-inch layout. It can be broken down and put into the back of my car. So there's that.
It's good.
So that was the big project, the last big project. Before that was my workshop, which I will blank my camera and go get retrieve the camera and bring it into the workshop, which is on the other end of the house and far away from where I have my tether to my headset. So I'll be right back.
Yeah, Sherry said a nice place for it too.
Oh yeah, it is. It's an eat-in kitchen, so there's plenty of room there. It's just, I had my, I still have my airbrush station in there. It's the only room that's not. It's the only room that's not carpeted, and I didn't want to risk spilling paint on the floor in a rented apartment.
I'm not your wife, brother. You ain't got to argue it to me. I'm 100%. That's a fine idea.
I think it's awesome.
Plus, there's a small porch out there, so I can just open the door. I can roll the cart out onto the back porch if I want to do it outdoors. If not, I do it inside, and I put on a mask, or I don't put on a mask. What's the worst that can happen to me? I end up being a chucklehead like somebody we know. All right, I'll be right back.
All right.
I learned a long time ago not to ask what's the worst that can happen, because I usually find out.
Yeah, let's see. Marcus said that we remodeled our house, and I was restricted to the smallest room, and I also sleep in there most nights. Marcus, yeah, so my training room is also my prison.
I did initially when I first started out, taking over the master bedroom. I was following DeBob's footsteps and just going to go around the top of the wall, and playing grew, and eventually she just gave in and all right, let's move into the guest bedroom. But that's a good idea. I'm glad you thought of that.
Well, Bob, he did have a message up here. He retracted it, but he said, yeah, he said, get you a flat car. That way you can serve your guests coffee.
Yeah.
Got that Facebook or YouTube movie that's made, yeah, along in the 50s or whatever. The guy that found mall trains and really went overboard. Had the O-scale delivering the food at the dining room table.
Yeah.
Had the dump car for the gravy.
Yeah. That's a funny old black and white video. Bill Wyman, his wife's talked about building an O-scale two-rail, I think two-rail, but whatever, O-scale into a bar top, into a circular bar top.
It always reminds me of me, that video.
Yeah.
There we go. The new workbench. 3 feet by 6 feet.
Not bad. That's a good setup.
Mm-hmm.
Up here has made a few changes, so I'm having to get used to this. The way we can blow things up now.
There's a few, and all the videos are larger. Take the screen a little more larger than.
Yeah, I mean, it works out fine.
They now have names on each of the little screens.
Yeah, we've
Right
had
now-
that for a couple of days now.
Andy, I think the larger screens are only for your premium account stuff.
Awesome.
No, because when I minimize this, everybody still equals out.
Hey, Ron, try that again. You're muted.
Something wrong with the technology. There's something wrong with the guy running it.
Yeah.
What I was trying to say was I really like the names because every once in a while somebody's working on something and I don't know who that is. So
Yeah.
I like that for
Cameras
sure.
pointed down. It's a little trickier with cameras pointed down. I mean, a cut mat looks like a cut mat, regardless of.
Right. Well, mine's pink, so people do recognize me.
Okay. Well,
I was sorry.
I thought about getting rid of it, but then somebody said, well, we won't know it's your videos if you don't have that pink cutting mat, so.
All right, Marcus went, she said, you want to build a stupid train in my house? I said, I do pay this also. Then I started crying about I don't get anything in the house I'm also paying for. So she allowed me to put a small one in the small room. Haha.
effort and compromise, brother. Like I say about building, like I've been saying here lately, I've kind of liked this story of building a layout is a choose your own adventure, like a choose your own adventure story, but it's choose your own compromise. You're going to compromise. Marriage is not that dissimilar. Choose your compromise. Choose wisely.
This is why I am building a model railroad and not a marriage.
We're not. And a minute ago, we weren't laughing at all with you. We that was just sheer envy.
I think N scale has the most advantages as far as small layouts. You can do so much with it,
provided you can see it.
Yeah, it's all about what do you want to do.
You can see it.
You can. It's all about what do you want to model. I've said I like to treat scale like any other tool or any other decision process. What are you modeling? Subscales are just conducive to certain things. If you want to model Colorado narrow gauge, a small line Colorado narrow gauge, not saying the space that you have doesn't control some of this too, but give it a small space, but moderate, a 10 by 10 ring, 15 by 15 ring. If you want to model narrow gauge, Colorado narrow gauge, SN3 or ON3 are just better suited to doing that type of modeling. If you want to model the Rocky Mountains in the modern era running stack trains, or something like that, N scale just is better for that. It's just, it's just more conducive to capturing the flavor. I didn't pick HO scale. I had a lot of experience with HO scale, but the last scale I modeled in was very briefly an N scale before I lost my mind, but in O scale 2 rail before that. I would have done it in O scale 2 rail, but given my space and given I wanted an Appalachian coal hauling railroad with helpers, HO scale was the most conducive scale to what I wanted to do. Not because I had stuff, but I got back into it a few years ago. I had nothing. I could have picked any scale.
And also in N scale, it depends on how you want to be. Let's say Big Bill, because tax-free railroad, how delicate you are, how fine you are, patient. Takes a lot of patience in N scale. It's a lot of homework.
That eyesight, you can get the same level of detail. Well, maybe not the same. You can get very highly detailed at N scale. The guy that makes the tie plates and all the detail parts for the track work that I do, that's crazy excessive, he's making most of that stuff at N scale now. So you could put, individual tie plates on every individual wood tie and scratch build a turnout with all the detail parts. Not exactly head leg, but you can do that at N scale. It's there. With given your eyesight, can you see it? So it just, and I say it all hooks together into this cohesive vision. How high your layout is, how deep it is, those are big considerations. All of that stuff is, and it all works together.
Honestly, a lot of it, I think, is less really about eyesight and more about dexterity. You can get unless you've got just extreme eye issue, you can get aids that will help you see whatever you want to see. But it's about having a steady hand, and also about having the patience to take the time to do some very fine, tiny detail work. It does take a steady hand.
Yeah, and I know hand-eye coordination skills probably applies some to it. An aptitude for working with your hands is kind of inherent in most of us modelers anyway, at least to varying degrees.
Right.
But it matters what you're trying to capture. If you're going to build your layout at 36 inches and you want that type of view, N scale's really conducive to that. N scale, I think, starts to sacrifice as you get up to these eye-level style layouts like we're doing. Even HO scale, for that matter. It's a challenge at HO scale to get anywhere close to what I want. But if I was doing O scale 2 rail, or even S scale, Proto 64, or in S scale's case, or Proto 48 in O scale's case, it's absolutely ideal for eye-level layouts. I mean, the detail's stellar.
How you doing, Lloyd? He's over in the chat. I guess he wants to be incognito tonight.
So, what's the guy's name with the 2-rail switching layout?
AJ.
AJ, what got you into 2-rail? I came in pretty late in the conversation.
Well, I'm modeling in 3 different scales: N scale, HO scale, and I started getting buying some equipment in 2-rail O because my vision, I noticed, was starting to go. I have diabetic retinopathy. It hasn't gotten bad yet, but it could. And so I wanted to have something on standby so that if things took a dramatic turn downward, I would at least still have my hobby there to escape into. And as I started building up that collection, well, decided not to leave it sitting in the cabinet all the time. And that sparked the layout that's now in the kitchen.
Yeah, I'm with my layout here. I have a O gauge layout. Though once I switch over to, I also have HO. Once I switch over to HO, folding one day, I'm still gonna keep all my Lionel O gauge stuff. Same thing. With if something happens or something, I can always go up to a bigger scale, and I have the stuff. I have the stuff.
Or you can model both scales.
Yep. That's what
I also
I'm doing
have
now.
I also have Lionel trains, so I just don't have room for a Lionel layout.
Yeah, just take a lot of room. High-rail or toy trains? Lionel wise, is it high-rail Lionel or is it more the toy stuff?
It's the stuff from the 50s.
Yeah. Yep.
The 50s through, I think the Blue Comet that I have from the 1970s is the newest, major piece that I have.
Okay.
But of all the scales, the 2-rail stuff's the stuff that's always impressed me the most. If I'm not saying G scale or F scale is larger, but the difference in half to O scale to F scale is, whatever, because normally at F scale you're modeling outside, so the scale is, the sheer size is diminished some. O scale, and especially 2-rail, because I just love that, O scale has a presence about it due to just sheer mass that you just can't, there's no good duplication for. You can fix that at in-scale HO sub by getting up closer, higher, narrower, etc., and you can compensate some for that lack of mass. But O scale just brings an amount of heft to the table that just does something for me.
Yeah.
All right, I've got a question here. 2 questions, actually, so I'll have to take a number. Michael is asking, hey guys, when it comes to putting ground cover in a freight yard, what would you use? And he said, my layout is built with plywood.
Probably just like a ballast. And it depends on the area of the yard. I would say that your model in the 50s put a lot of cinders. Then modern day, some light ballast, depending on the railroad, and then some grass and let's say not ballast though, more gravel. So and some grass and weeds, some trash around, different stuff. Diesel pads like leaking the diesel, a little bit of blackness on spots and different stuff.
Grass tufts are kind of your friend in those spaces, and make them. Build your little grass applicator, make tufts, and set them around. Because that's what happens. Grass doesn't tend to grow everywhere. It does in some places, but mostly it's in these little spots, around poles, little ditches and waterways and whatever. And I use natural dirt, just dirt out of the yard. I cook it briefly when I catch the wife not home for a little while, and run a magnet through it. So, so you're not getting it, especially, but it could get into your motor's mechanical stuff. That's possible. But more importantly, getting in the speakers of our sound equipment that has speakers on the bottom. And I make my own ballast out of leveling sand, which is just grout. Grout's a good material to make any ground cover out of as well, because you can change colors so easily with it.
Well, hey, Gino.
I'd also...
Gino, I've heard of that guy.
Yeah, he just popped in and went boo. What's that, Ron?
I was just going to say on that yard question, as you're doing that ground cover too, I'd go to like Google Maps, the satellite view, or Google Earth, and take a look at some real yards, and you'll be surprised. Look at the amount of spillage that you see in the yards. You can really add a lot of realism too just by adding some spillage throughout. It's amazing, you know, how much leaks out the bottom of a grain car. Or covered hoppers are the worst about spillage, and that's a real easy way to really have some interest. So you don't look like you just got a big freshly graded gravel parking lot.
Yeah.
Because on the prototype, they don't look anything close to perfect. I see these model layouts, grass to a certain point, and then there's these perfectly profiled ballast. Everybody's got this idea that the ballast comes right up to the tops of the ties. No, not at all. You see ties almost floated out of ballast. You see sometimes piles of ballast on top of the ties. It's very, very variable. And Ralph will tell you to weather off from most anybody weathers tell you, always weather off a photo without question. I would say that no matter what you're doing. When I build trees, I've got pictures of trees here because our idea of what a tree looks like, our memory or ability to recall what a tree looks like and what a tree actually looks like, there's a discrepancy.
Yeah, so it also, sorry, I'll let somebody else go.
Yeah, I was along the Snake River, and they just freshly ballasted, and there was just piles along the ends of the ties.
Sure. It's just not perfect. And if it's freshly ballasted, it's still not perfect. It's imperfect in a different way. But in a line that doesn't have fresh ballast, like in a yard where it would be ballasted, you know, Rod's point of piles of stuff is what separates. It's what you know it's missing something. You may not know what it's missing, but you know it's missing something. And one of the things that I've said before is humans are dirty, dirty creatures. Wherever we go, we're just dirty. So dirt, I mean loose ties, piles of tie plates. And you can buy tie plates from Monster Model Works or several other places, but you can buy theirs. They're just little resin paper things, and fish plates, the sugar plates. Buy them and cut them and paint them brown and pile them up, because that's what it looks like in those areas, just piles of stuff and trash. Old signals, you know, go buy some of the old Oregon Rail Supply signals off of eBay and don't use the light bulbs in them that used to come with you. Buy for a few bucks and pile up the parts.
Yep. And also with the like Andy's layout, it would be back in the 50s. I said earlier, it'd be thinner, not back for battles like we see now. So I want to share this. These are just some pictures of a yard I went to about a month ago, let's say. So you can see in here the grass and different stuff. Also, this is the main line, if I remember right. This would be the main line there. You see how low it is, less ballast. There might be even some ballast on top. Grass down some tracks. Also, it's different stuff all around. And you'll actually see black patches that are maybe oil spilled and different stuff. There's also a yard local. This is a short lines yard. This picture, and it's got grass down here. Ballast, if I could zoom in on top of the ties. Some ties don't even are just on dirt right here. Actually, a little bit. So it's not that good of condition. And it all depends on your yard. Here's another yard. I visited a week or two ago, and this is just pretty much all grass between the things, because they don't use this yard really. Only thing they use this yard is to store these locomotives.
Andy, mute your mic.
And then the other thing here in this yard again, you got grasses, and they don't use this turntable anymore. And there's trees growing up in the turntable. There's patches of rainwater, different stuff. That's pretty much that's just what a yard is. Or maybe a little bit of trash, different stuff. So it all depends on your area. I would look at your prototype photos of the yards. And depending on the railroad, I know the Pennsy at least the Conway yard, they actually kept it pretty good condition because this was one of their pride yards, and they actually kept it pretty good between the most of the yards.
All right. Go ahead.
Another thing you'll see along some of the main lines is your spare rail, because eventually they're going to start wanting to trade out the rail, so they only use one side of the rail at a time. So they'll have a spare rail laying alongside the main line.
Yeah. One of the other things you have to consider, Josh, that you were commenting about the growth of non-use and so on. A lot of the municipalities now have stopped the use of pesticides and weed killers and so on. So the weeds that they were controlling before with weed killer, they're not using anymore. So they can't control the weeds the same way.
Yeah. And also, another thing is, also back in the Pensy days, at least in certain areas, they actually had a blowtorch kind of car. Like it was motor powered, so it's like a for tracking. So it had like blowtorch. They would actually burn the weeds and stuff.
And I would say the growth. I mean, you would think that vegetation doesn't say much about era. You know, I hear all the time people modeling in multiple eras and change the rolling stock locomotives, change the cars, the vehicles, all that. They set the era. But if you're really trying to capture anything that you know what the area looks like, vegetation changes a lot. The places I'm modeling looked a lot different in 1950. Vegetation and growth looked massively different then than it did in the 80s, and then again quite a bit different. In the 50s era, they were using things that the EPA would never approve of today, pouring the cinder down the sides of the right-of-way to control growth. And then in the 70s, they used the pesticides, which just, you had these dirt. Then now you start looking at the 2000s, 2010s, these eras, then you're seeing this growth come back up without being controlled as much. So you want to set somebody in a specific place, vegetation's another element to, you know, how it is affected, how they clear cut, because 1950 they clear cut the mountainsides. You know, during the war effort, they clear cut everything.
All right, well, we got a few comments here, and get back to Big Bill's question that he had. First comment is about, you know, what we're talking about here. Big Bill, I am getting real in my house. I have taken my bathroom and modeled it after one in a crew room. No door, broken toilet seat, and squares of newspaper for toilet paper. My wife hates it, but we have to real prototype here at the South Brooklyn Railroad. But get back up here again. Bill had a question. Marcus said that I know kind of late, but I had to find the website again. When you guys were talking about in-scale detail, Proto 87 released a line of track supplies for in-scale. Now let me get back up here and find Big Bill's question again. Oh, okay. Bill's question was, what is a good DCC decoder for an EMD SW1 with factory 8-pin DCC plug?
Okay, I responded to him in the chat that ESU Luxsound has a good selection now of sound files if he wants to put sound, or he can use their motion decoders. They have a great motion decoder for the locomotives. ESU seems to be heading up where the other guys have sort of leveled off. Just a thought. It's easy since he already has the 8-pin plug. It's just a matter of It's DCC ready. It's just plug it in.
Yeah.
Pull out the dummy plug and plug in the decoder. And I guess you could use any decoder for that matter if it's just motion he wants.
Oh, Ralph, I gotta correct you there just for 1 second. Now we're talking Big Bill in Brooklyn, New York. So it's not a dummy plug; it's a knucklehead plug, because there are knuckleheads there.
Oh, pardon. Okay, I thought I said something wrong.
I think that low pilot you mentioned, the low that motion only ESU is I didn't know about it, and it's kind of I haven't seen a lot of people mention that as an option for motion only controller boards, and they're not very expensive. Somebody had recommended, actually I think Ralph had originally recommended, just buying the base Digitrax motion motor control for this train I'm building, locomotive I'm building, track plating. It's a $20 decoder from Digitrax. The local pilot's only like $25. So for $5 more, you could have that high-end motor control. And ESU's got kind of famous the last few years for sound. The sound quality is unlimited. Yep. But their motor control is second to none.
And their MSRP is where is it? $32.
Yeah, I looked online and I found the Digitrax for.
You said the Lock Pilot. The Lock Pilot is $23.99.
Yep, I do it somewhere, and I can. The Lock Pilot is the motor control only, and there's applications. There's a lot of applications where that's relevant, where you want a separate soundboard for a few reasons or whatever. The Lock Pilot's just. I didn't even know they had it. I've watched Matt Herman on Trainmaster TV on What's Need on Kim Patterson's shows. I've watched him on everything coming and going. I think he is one of the most fascinating companies. Speaking of which, they just released the new version of the ECOS system that I'm a huge fan of, but is much more. It's tailored to the U.S. market. It's got this little base module and the handheld controller with Android. It's really tailored, and that just came out the last few days.
Yeah, we kind of lost Ralph. He'll be back. Uh-oh. Now it's telling me my network's blocking. Hopefully I don't lose this.
You seem to be
dropping like flies here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have shows at the time of evenings that companies who upgrade software tend to start looking at doing upgrades right now. So,
yeah.
Have anybody else looked at at the ECOS system in general, or anybody else see that announcement they had this past week for the new ECOS tailored to? Because it's been really popular in the European market with very little adoption over here. But that new ECOS that they dropped for the U.S. market this past week, I think that's going to be a major player in the DCC market within a few years. It already is in Europe. Pull that up and show you guys a video.
I just can't wait until I start seeing more in-scale involved into sound. That's going to really start exploding.
It's there, right? I mean,
it's already there. I was commenting today because I started upgrading to sound, I don't know, a few years ago, and I've got a lot of Digitrax sound decoders in scale locomotives, which were great when I put them in. I was listening to an ESU loc sound decoder today, and I said, that makes every locomotive on my layout sound like an old AM transistor radio. It makes me just want to spend a boatload of money and go upgrade all of my sound decoders to ESU, which I'm not going to do all at once. But I tell you that the strides are there, and the cost is reasonable. There, unless you're literally modeling on a shoestring, there's really not a lot of reason not to have at least some sound on an in-scale layout. You can get a sound equipped, or you can equip a locomotive with good sound today for what you would have bought just a locomotive for, 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, I'm looking at the Atlas GP40s and 35s, and they weren't really into that part with that motive power from Atlas at the time. So you'd actually have to go in and build some space out.
Well, and like Intermountain, for example, their locomotives, they're coming out with quality ESU log sound installed in the factory. And it used to be, if you got even a factory installed decoder, it was going to be pretty basic, is the nicest way I can say it. They just didn't function very well. I was looking at Intermountain's SD40-2, a review a guy did here, a couple of them actually here just in the last few weeks, and they run like a champ, and they just sound incredible. It's that kind of sound I never thought you'd get out of an N-scale locomotive. It's amazing.
Somebody put a Intermountain on a 4% grade, pulling 20, 30 cars. I've seen this on Facebook or something like that, and he couldn't get it to pull up the hill, but he got his centipedes to pull it up the hill. I'm like, well, where in the real world and in scale are you going to run a 4% grade? You aren't going to see that unless if you're really wanting to do something like that.
You might see somebody do it, but it's not going to look it's not going to look prototypical remotely.
You got some friction problems. It's
right.
There are 4% grades on the prototype. Saluda Mountain on the old southern line, North Carolina, South Carolina border, that goes to like 4.2%. That's prototypical to go at those grades, and that's class 1 mainline grade. 3% at 2 and high 2s, not uncommon in helper. Right. The problem is we scale everything down except gravity. And we're lacking some technologies that maybe ESU will have in another 1,000 years for manipulating gravity at scale. But right now, we're 1-87 or 1-160, 1-to-1 gravity and 1-to-1 friction and these things. So we have to work with the constraints of the real world. And with those scale, you can do 8% grades and run scaling trains up them. The stuff will just, due to sheer mass, weight, attractive effort, and our stuff's got better. I mean, I remember when 2% was about everything you could do on an HL scale layout with Athearn blue box equipment, about 2%, and you still weren't running. They just didn't track that well. These things with equalized trucks and all the other stuff, the locomotive pulls more than I actually want them to. I massively overweight my cars to reduce their potential pulling power. But N-scale's not there yet, and may never get there due to just the physics. So if you want to do a steep mountain grade, you need 2.5% or something. That's a steep mountain grade at N-scale.
Yeah, one thing I don't know that N-scale will ever be able. I mean, you can't scale the physics, and you can only fit so much and so dense a weight inside of an N-scale locomotive, and put in a motor and a decoder and a speaker if you're going to run sound. There's only so much that you can condense inside of that small space. And the way they're built, they literally fill every square millimeter with frame.
Yeah, Marcus said, Ron, yes, those Intermountain SD40s made me want sound.
Yeah, I can tell you, and you don't always get the best representation over a YouTube video, but I'm going to tell you, they sound incredible.
And this is a problem that's getting worse. The more we're adding more stuff to it, which means less weight. This was a problem that was getting better for a while, and then we went to digital control, and now we're putting speakers, and now we're running larger speakers and multi-speakers, stereo sound, all these variable things. And the more we do with them, the more things you want in there, the less weight. Yeah, there hasn't been any advancement. We're still using 200-year-old technology for stocking lead in the thing. There are denser materials, but it's one thing I've never heard of anybody using anything other than lead to weight a locomotive. I've never seen anybody use a denser material.
Well, it's kind of hard to get depleted uranium.
Yeah, my source dried up. Yeah. But there are materials out there, and hybrids out there that are better. Or the biggest thing is the lead that we buy, typically, the little wheel weight and stuff, it's a pretty low quality lead. And it's fine. If it ain't your scale, if you're stocking it in a box car, buy the cheapest material lead you could buy. You got a box car to stick it in. But if you've got a high-end in-scale locomotive that you want sound and all these other things in, buy a higher purity lead. It is entirely viable. My echo go away, by the way?
Yeah.
Sounds better on my end.
Yeah, just when everybody was talking, you were squeaking. It was getting the feedback.
I had to refresh. It happens.
Got to put my headphones on because my mixer showed my volume being higher than normal.
Well, you're excited. That's good stuff. I get excited. I'm squeaking, so.
I'll just let the guys know out there in the chat, if you got a webcam or a built-in camera on the laptops and you got a fairly decent internet connection, you're welcome to come in on the panel and join in with us. Be glad to have you.
Don't need an account.
No.
Just come to the website that you can see in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. appear.in/ytmb-i.
Yep. Well, you do need to use Chrome. That seems to be the best browser. Apple, there is a little difference there, I think. But we got a couple guys here that could possibly help you out with that. And but we'll do what we can. There is just a little short, takes about 4 to 5 seconds when you first come in. That Appear needs to download a little bit of software so that Chrome can communicate with Appear. But other than that, yeah, that's all you gotta do is hit the link and come on in. I'll post a link anyway for the panel on Thursday night shows, so you go to where it's posted, G Plus or Facebook, and click that link. It'll bring you right in here. How you doing, Steve? He just joined us. So what's your new adventure coming up here, AJ?
My next adventure is actually designing the track plans for the various layouts and getting to work on that.
Okay. Be posting pictures, I hope, as you work along.
Of course.
Are they all switching style layouts? See, it's like the one you're working on, like your old scale 2-rail was, or are you doing something different with your N scale stuff?
The N scale might have a continuous run in it because the benchwork is wide enough, but for the most part, yeah, everything is switching style.
That's what I like anyway. If you're in a restricted space, that's always what I favor.
It just depends on. Go ahead.
When you're switching layouts, are they all fictional railroad in a freelance railroad, or are you modeling a prototype short line or something?
They're all based on reality of some sort, but it's more proto-freelance than prototype modeling.
Okay.
I don't have any dedication.
No, sir.
Well, just to mess with Josh here, AJ, you gonna have was it CTC, or are you gonna have block control and all that on there?
No. It's gonna be some sort of car card operation.
Yeah.
Oh, flimsy.
even if you needed a dispatch, and really on a switching layout, I would just have like a track route already filled out. You would just like, I was thinking if it was just you repeat what the track warrant says and just head out for the day. We work like the dispatcher's giving you 30 to work the brain for.
You know, track warrants in a modern era are a mother may I system on a switching layout.
Here come Lloyd.
What's up, buddy?
Sorry about that, Andy. You're squeaking again. I had you muted. I caught most of it. I got it turned off, so most of your statement got heard.
I don't know why it's doing that.
So how's
Somebody needs to take Andy to the oil rack.
how's everybody today?
Ah, good, you.
Good. Started working on my layout again. It's been 4 weeks.
Well, you've been out gallivanting around, you know, from continent to
I know that
continent.
feeling, Lloyd. I know that feeling.
So, what are you fixing to start back on?
Well, I'm working on my valance. I'm putting the top part on my valance because I want to start putting my LED lights in. Also, continue wiring tracks. I got a building to get started on. Do some cleanup. So I'll
Well,
be
that's
pretty
a
busy.
given there.
What part? The cleanup?
Yeah, when you're working on layouts.
Yeah. Especially when you have to look for a tool for 2 days because you don't know where it is. And no, it's not in back of me.
I didn't say that, Ralph.
Attached to the toolbox.
You're
And
muted.
I'm waiting for
Ralph, you're muted.
and I'm waiting for Ralph's weathering show.
Yeah.
I'm all ready.
Ralph, you're muted.
I know the feeling about how you can lose things. I only finally partially got my workbench organized today. Gosh only knows where half my tools are.
Well, you see, my benchwork right now is 20 feet by 40 feet, so I got lots to search for a tool.
And every day that you do something more on the layout, you lose more workbench.
Yeah, that too.
Well, that's why you build your layout up at eye level. You'll never put stuff on it up there. It's useless to store stuff on.
I don't know about that.
So you say.
But then you can have workbenches then you'd have workbenches all the way around underneath it if it's up there. You know, you'd have as much workbench as you have layout. If your
Yeah,
layout.
but then he can stack it higher underneath a high layout.
That's the ticket.
Well, I've got a staging where I put all my tools too, so I got double a level of stuff.
Well, Ralph, you want me to do it, or you want to give a little brief synopsis of your show coming up on 24th of this month?
Oh, well, it's going to be start off with some of the basics, so that anybody who wants to start or get into weathering without going extreme can do it. You don't need an airbrush. All you need is some makeup sponges and some paints, and you're golden. You can go ahead and do or follow along.
those makeup sponges you talking about, kind of round or wedge shape or wedge?
Wedge, round, doesn't really matter. The wedge ones, at least you can pull them apart and make it an uneven surface. You get them at the dollar store now. You get, I think there's about 24 of them in a package for $1. The paints that I use are watercolor paste. It's called gouaches, and water mixable oil paints. And I use Microsol to mix it with. And once that's done, you go ahead and it adds grime to your car.
A Microsoft decal setting solution.
Yes, sir.
Oh, awesome.
And that's not my invention. That was a group of modelers called Model Trains Weathered. And that group has since disbanded, and the guys that were part of that have formed a group called the Rust Bucket, which you probably are all aware of. It's one of their original techniques for putting grime on the car to start with. Now, when I do a model, actually, I don't know whether you can see it, that's sort of solid black on the bottom.
Okay.
But I use an airbrush and I add a combination of, well, it's not a combination, it's white. About 5 to 10% white to 90% thinner, and I use alcohol as a thinner. I airbrush it on. That's what I do now. But the process that I'm going to present on Thursday or on Tuesday is meant for those who don't have an airbrush. It's also not harsh chemicals. Trying to do seminars or clinics in a confined space when you're using dull coat or even mineral spirits, it can get kind of smelly. So I developed this along with the guys from the group. We developed this thing using the Microsol and these paints, and it just, and you add it, you just paint it on, you slap it on, you don't have to be particular about where it goes, and you take it off with a sponge. And it gives you a nice mottled finish. And then you can go from there. You can add your streaks, your rust dots, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be a good, interesting show.
So I'm going to cover from plastic, and I know AJ, or not AJ, Dave Owen30. He's going to be watching because he wants to know how to do structures and so on, how to weather wood. A lot of the processes that I use can be used on wood, and there's no reason why you can't go ahead and use it on wood. There's different processes, but we'll get into that. So I'll cover from plastic to wood, from rocks, weathering your rock work, your track work. I'll do all that.
A to Z.
Yep. So from benchwork to mainline.
Yep. Sounds good to me. Be looking forward to that one.
I'll be watching to learn how to weather wood too.
Okay.
Yeah, and that will be on the 24th of October. That's a Tuesday, and it will be at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern time. And it is a recorded show, so if you couldn't make it, don't worry. Just go to YouTube Model Builders and look it up on the playlist.
Or if you missed something that was said, you can go back and rewatch it.
Yep. And
I'm
for
trying.
14
Go ahead.
easy payments of $19.95, you
Yeah.
can also get the DVD. And you don't have to call the 1-800 New Jersey number.
That's right.
And for $25,000 Canadian, Ralph will come to your home and do it to your models himself in person.
Yeah.
All right, Robert put in here, what about spur lines? I guess, as you said, a workbench to main line. Yeah, they'll cover the spur lines too, Robert.
Yep. That's why I said track work. Track work is everywhere. And just remember, train time is any time.
Yeah.
Even when you're stuck at a grade crossing watching trains.
Yep.
Well, anybody else got anything? Got any questions out there on the chat? Anybody want to ask? We've had a good turnout tonight, but I think this is going to wind up kind of being a little bit of a short show. We're a little short on topics tonight.
Well, maybe Dan can explain the difference between how EMDs are looking like GEs and GEs are looking like EMDs these days.
Oh, you would try and pull that one.
Yeah, I'm going to shoot you, AJ.
That will take longer than an hour.
Yeah, sorry about that, Stu, but yeah, we don't have a clue about the winning lottery numbers for this week.
Same numbers as last week.
Oh, Ralph, Marcus.
What they won't be the number that you pick.
So.
Yeah.
Marcus is asking Ralph if your techniques work for N scale. I'm sure they would.
Actually, they do. It's just because it's so small. It's less is more.
Yeah.
So you have to reduce the amount of weathering you do in order to make it look good. If you put too much, it's going to overdo it. So, like, one of the things I've always said, and I think it was mentioned at the beginning, work from a prototype photograph. Always. Not out of something that you're thinking you want done out of your brain. Because that guarantees that you will overdo it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know one of these nights I'll show you guys my future home layout. I don't know if it's going to be in a 13 by 13 or if it's going to be in a 14 by 40 yet. Haven't gotten to that point, but I am working on my next one, which is in a 14 by 40 shed, which will be self-reliant on the sun.
I have a question for you. Anybody remember those old pedals that you could get for a dribble to adjust the dribble?
Yep.
Have you anybody seen those around anywhere?
Go to somewhere like Harbor Freight or something like that. You may be able to find
speed control, and they were a speed controller for it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought so. I've been thinking about that with this hard thing adjusted, trying to work, so an actual floor pedal will be.
Well, I just had somebody come in and chat here. This appears to be Asian. Unfortunately, we don't read that. If you could translate that for us, because we'd be glad to hear from you. Steve said like an old sewing machine controller.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I think even Dribble, or it might have been aftermarket, but it seems like it was that Dribble years ago. And I heard some talk somebody was talking about some years ago that you had to buy. Actually, I think Ken Patterson did it on a tool roundup that he did. He was talking about going back and buying the older dribbles instead of the newer models because the older dribbles supported the floor pedals. So I was curious with the newer dribbles, that was a possibility to do.
Well, Dave said make your own with a rheostat in line of an extension cord.
I know. I was wondering if that, because you can buy a floor pedal and that'll adjust like for a sewing machine. I just wonder if that will. I'm curious because a lot of these new things that are using like, they're using pulse width to control the speed of the motor.
Exactly.
And they don't. You can't. It's got to have 110.
Which means you have to have full
Scott,
speed and then control it with the pedal.
Yeah. Andy's machine's heating up.
Which
All
would be
right. Mine quit on me a few minutes ago.
Yeah. Kenny said Harbor Freight has them, the foot pedals.
awesome. Because I looked on Dribble's site to see if they made it, and they don't have it. It's not listed. And I searched on eBay for Dribble foot pedal, and I found some stupid stuff, but nothing that looked legitimate. Harbor Freight, I'll give that a go. I didn't even think they'd have something as esoteric as that. You'd be surprised how useful they are. I've never had one, but I knew people who had them. The hobby shop that I worked at as a teenager, we had one. It was awesome.
Yeah, Marcus said, I don't think the newer ones you can adjust. That's the reason why everybody's buying the older models. Dave, ON30, said, we've done it for years with our new head grinding tools. I guess he's talking about at work.
Yeah, as long as it's direct feed. I've been looking at these new, so I like this flex bit contraptions. I think these are just the bee's knees. But there's another company other than Dribble that makes a rotary tool that's just the size of a marker. It's just the size of the not, that's the full rotary tool. So I've thought about it.
Is Split Rock still on here? Because he has a connection to or a link to where he gets his Dremel discs, and they sell the jewelry tools. That is a jewelry tool. It has the motor that hangs up above with the shaft that comes down, and that's controllable with a foot pedal.
I've seen people have those, so that kind of solves kind of multiple little issues for me. Yeah.
Split Rock said I might be.
Looking for a secret from you, Tom. Will it be so kind as to share with us where you're getting those rotary tools, whatever that tool or the cutoff discs, what that tool supplier is? He might be able to hook us up. Yeah. Most of us model railroaders have an enjoyment of fine sarcasm.
Actually, I've used the discs that he gets, and they last a lot longer than a Dremel disc.
Yeah, Kenny said Fordham tools, Foredom.
Yeah, let's go look at those. And they're quite thin, right? Ralph, they're real thin.
And Split Rock,
a little bit thinner than a Dremel.
And Split Rock is looking up the link right now.
And the other thing I came across was a Dremel 9100 on Amazon. See the text messaging here in the peer-in.
Yeah, that doesn't do any good.
Yeah, I had looked at some of those too. I think that might be what I have to do. I mean, unless this one of those standalone small form factor rotary tools, turns out to work. Well, I'm sure they'll work. It's about how affordable they are.
Yeah.
Some of those get really expensive.
I got one of those Dremel Quick Lock that they were starting to produce, the cutting discs, and they were expensive. They're like $40, but you got the tool.
Yeah, but that's because you had to pay for the arbor to go with it.
Oh, you're talking about the Easy Lock?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine wasn't that much.
Well, I got it from Walmart.
I got mine at Home Depot. I think I paid $8 or something for the arbor, and paid almost the same amount for 5 discs. Well, I bought sanding discs, not the cut-off wheels.
So what you're talking about is the spindle for the disc that you don't put that you don't put that little 256 screw or whatever.
Yeah, it's just
No, that's right.
you pull the collar down, set it on there, give it a twist, and it locks in.
Or shoot, for $8, I'd do that. That screws are paid.
All right, Split Rock said they are Deco, DE.
Dedeco.
Yeah,
Dedeco.
Yeah, I just couldn't stutter.
Yeah, I remember him sharing that. Yeah, it is a bit of a controlled stuff.
You can find them on Amazon.
And the auction sites. Yeah, what you do, Split Rock, is you can't put the dot in, you just spell out dot, D-O-T. And that way you can put the whole link in. Wherever there's a dot, you just spell that out as a D-O-T.
This Fordham Tool System, they do their rotary tools. They call well, they have like their own brand of. They all seem to have the controls that would support a foot pedal. Got a little bench top lathe. It's pretty interesting too. It's all I think tailored to dental. It looks like they're tailored to doing dental tools.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Split Rock. On the dot versus dot.
Yep.
The dot.
Like Gmail, DOT.
COM.
On the dot.
Kind of the common syntax in the computer world, or the common parlance for doing that is to do parenthesis, dot, parenthesis, and then you note or replace it with a period. That's just, but it doesn't matter as long as people know it, see it.
He said he's learning something every day. Besides running locomotives.
What was that, Ralph? Or Lloyd?
Learning something.
Yeah, Andy, I was going to say those. We were talking about what do you call it? Those Dremel tools for jewelry.
Yeah.
Well, I got one of those, like this pack here.
Wow, that's nice.
There's a bunch of them. There's these ones, and there's the oh, what do you call them? They're a bit different. I don't know if you can see. There's a bunch of them in there. They're all like jewelry bits.
They look like burrs.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
Yeah.
Burrs are handy. I use all kinds of stuff.
I took a chance. I got them from my favorite place, China.
Evil Bay. Yeah, Evil Bay has Martin.
Yeah.
Are they diamond coated?
I don't think so.
Not those. No.
Not for the price that I paid.
Yeah, because
Oh, you'd be surprised.
yeah, I got that kit there, and no, they're not diamond coated.
No.
They're just your standard miniature burrs.
Diamonds aren't expensive. There's all kinds of diamonds out in the world. The only reason they're expensive is because, putting on a ring for your wife, they're expensive. Diamonds all blades and stuff are.
I mean, for the amount of time I'll be using it, I think it's going to be good enough.
Lloyd, there's a question here for you from Marcus. He wants to know where you bought your styrene for scratch building.
Oh, I bought them at a what do you call it? A plastic distribution center in Montreal. I bought a sheet 4 feet by 8 feet. .04 thickness.
Yeah, 40 thou.
Yeah, I went and picked it up. It was $18, so I was very happy.
It's a hell of a lot less than what you pay at the hobby shop.
Oh yes. Well, I told you guys the story where I was looking for a sheet, and I ended up finding a really good place in the States for about $17, but he was charging me $350 for shipping.
Yeah, he wasn't going to roll it. He's leaving it out flat, going to truck ship it to you.
Yeah.
He's going to put that on the wood pallet. I know what he's doing.
eBay has them. I was asking where to get them to. eBay has, you can buy like 6 sheets, a 40 thou, 4x8 sheet of it, 6 sheets of white for $100, maybe a few bucks more. And they roll it up and, you know, put it in a decent size box. It was pretty reasonable. The black color that for my fascia is a little higher.
Yeah, as long as you live in the States and order it and ship it in the States, yeah. But try to cross the border with it, and they're gonna kill you for it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I went and picked it up. I asked the guy, could you cut it in 4, like 4 sheets of 2x4, and it fits perfectly in the car, no problem. The only thing though is they only have the .04. They don't, like, I asked them if they had other types, and no.
Yeah, I know down here our distribution stores usually have it all thicknesses, 4x8 sheets, and when you order it, you tell them how you want it. Yeah, because some of the guys down here at the Piedmont division went in, they bought a number of sheets, different thicknesses, and they asked them at the time when they ordered them if they could cut them in 2x4 pieces, just to make it easier to haul. And they did, because when they rolled up to the place, they had all done for them, stacked and separated in the various thicknesses.
I wish I could find, you know, like sidings of buildings, like the corrugated steel.
Yeah.
If I could find like a 4x8 sheet, it would be great, but I probably spent 2 days searching the internet for that, and I couldn't find it.
Probably have to reach out to one of the vendors directly that would do that.
Like
you could probably do it directly. Possibly.
Like, you mean to contact like Evergreen or
yeah,
those companies?
Yeah. Or you can go to a plastic supplier.
Yeah. Because the Evergreen's just buying it from somebody else in a certain form.
Yeah. If you had a
He's
sample of
finding
it,
where-
you go into a plastic supplier and he saw the sample, I'm sure he'd be able to get what you need.
Yeah, Kenny's asking, do you find that under plastic suppliers or what?
I would.
Yeah. I found it under plastic distribution.
Yeah, wholesale plastic distributor.
Yeah. There was one in Ottawa and there was one in Montreal.
Yeah, Steve said he just did a search on it, went through until he found some sites. He said also eBay has, from time to time, large stuff.
Yeah, there's a guy on eBay that I've been following. He does like 1,600 pieces for like $20. They're like
1,600 pieces of what?
16. It was, you had your square blocks, you had your I-beams, angles, flat bars. He had acrylics.
It was an assortment package, right?
Well, he also has them as, you can buy them this shape, but you get 3 different sizes.
You gotta be careful.
I bought 500, the pack of 500, and it's got all, like, Here, I'll just show them to you. Here. You got I-beams, you got flat pieces, square pieces, you got round pieces, different sizes. You got everything needed, and it was 500 pieces for. It was pretty cheap. It was on eBay.
You gotta be careful. Some of those eBay distributors are selling a plastic that's PVC or whatever. It's not styrene. It's not a regular plastic piece. It's attached. Well, you have to use different.
Yeah, like this one here. It's not necessarily styrene. It's more like plastic. And I had different sizes of tubings: round, square. You never know. It's always useful.
Yeah, you use that tubing in the corners of buildings as wiring chase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I use the big tubings for, is to pass all my wiring inside the building so nothing shows.
Just as long as you're stuck with code on it.
Yeah. Or you pass like you pass 10, 12 wires, and at the other end you have no idea where that one goes.
Yeah.
I've used some copper tube for that, like the interlocking tower I built. I didn't originally plan it. I added the lighting after the fact. I don't know where I would have hit it anyway. So I drilled through the little potbelly stove and made a stack and run the wires straight down through that. So the wires go down through the stack and through the cast potbelly stove. But a lot of times copper's so handy because you could solder your common wire to that copper and not have to run that additional wire too. But copper's a lot more expensive than plastic. And if you've got the room, plastic tube, and just run all the wires through, it's better, cheaper.
Ron, I had to laugh because you were sitting just right, and the thought I had in my head with that thing up on the wall there was the Lucille Ball show where she was coming down the steps with this great big head dressing, and about halfway down it starts to come off, and she's trying to keep it balanced.
I can see that if I'm going to sit here in the future, I'm going to have to take that thing off the wall. But then I'm going to get in trouble with my wife. So, you know,
Yeah.
there's no win.
Just explain it for us just for only 2 hours, and it'll be put back up.
That's right. Well, and like I said tonight, you know, I'm only here because I wanted to participate in this and keep up with the Chiefs score at the same time. So. We're winning, by the way.
Are they playing Denver or are they playing
Oakland, playing the Raiders.
Is that N scale or HO scale?
It looks like N scale on my TV in the kitchen.
you have to apply the
It's O
zoom in?
scale if I go downstairs.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Not seeing nothing new about any new questions or anything. So, anybody got anything else, or I guess we'll wind this one up.
Well, I was out waiting for one of the Union Pacific Heritage locomotives, and I was really wanting to get out there before it started to snow, but here's one of the tumbleweeds that I find next to the main line in Kuna. I can't find them anywhere else, but they make perfect armatures. If you can find the right structures, you can make trees out of these.
Use off the top, use some polyfill on top of it. You can make a fairly good looking tree.
Oh, yeah.
Polyfill doesn't do a great job. Well, you're at end scale too, so polyfill is a lot more. With a 6 polyfill is a lot more forgiving at end scale than it is at HO. And even still, you could even do background or immediate post foreground trees using polyfill.
And what is it you're calling polyfill?
That Woodland Scenics polyfill. It's
Polyfiber.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Polyfiber. Thank you.
Yeah, I just went over to the hobby shop and got some of that stuff they use for pillows and stuff like that. Same thing.
Yeah, I've got a bag of that stuff too. Works just fine. And a lot more for $5 at Walmart. So a lot more material.
Yeah.
Gotta paint it either.
Marcus was asking, did you guys see the new UP Veterans logo they debuted today? Yeah.
I was just going to say something about that.
Dan was showing us just before the show started.
Wow, paint job.
I can re-show it if anybody wants me to.
Actually, it's like 5 wild paint. I thought it was, but figure out there thinking it's like 5 or something.
Yeah, throw it up there real quick, Dan.
Quick.
This is their drawing of it.
No, I want the picture.
Scroll up.
You want the photograph.
Public photograph that they did.
The hunter in me loves the camouflage. I never thought I'd live to see the day when I see a camouflage locomotive on prototype rails, but just when you think you've seen it all, there it is.
Didn't UP have a locomotive in desert camo back in the first Gulf War?
You know, I
Yes.
think they did. Now that you mentioned it, I'd forgotten that. I think they did.
That's their Desert Storm locomotive. It was repainted to the standard UP colors, and it had the Desert Storm Abram camouflage. And this picture depicts what each colored section of the locomotive stands. And the reason why they call this the Spirit is because Union Pacific back in '43 bought with war bonds a B-17F. It flew 5 missions before getting shot down by artillery. I don't know if it was to or from or while it was doing its bombing run, but that's what this nose section is for, is to commemorate that bomber. I think it looks nice. Except for the green part. The green part on the prototype comes out a little bit too light when you take pictures of it.
Yeah, it almost looks a little yellow on
excellent
the photographs.
Yeah, it's like that light cascade green that Burlington Northern had for a while.
Where are you seeing the green?
Back
Right
on
here.
the fan.
You need a side-on view. There was a full side-on view on Facebook. I don't know if I'd find it fast enough, but
It's the green that's in the camouflage.
Yeah. But that's also with the sun hitting it just right. It just makes it more green. But I was hoping it would be for like not just Promontory. Promontory's coming up, and we all know that they're trying to push that big boy to get done. But we also have another Transcon Golden Spike that hardly anybody talks about, which is when UP brought their branch line from Grangeville up to Portland. That's another Golden Spike nobody really talks about. for Union Pacific, and I was hoping it would be the OSL or the Oregon Railroad and Navigation. But if wishes were fishes, the world would be an ocean.
Yeah. All righty. Let's see.
Kenny wants to know who's going to make a model of it first.
Race is on.
Yeah.
Like I explained on the Facebook forum, give it 2 weeks, because just like when somebody did the Union Pacific monster locomotive, they actually did a prototype and somebody took pictures of it. They had the decals out within 2 weeks.
Well, that's what Split Rock says. Circus City announced decal sheets on Facebook.
Just came out today.
Yeah, I think they're the ones that did the monster locomotive as well.
Well, I'll let you guys know, somebody had asked last week on the Thursday show if we're going to be around. Andy and I and Chris will be at the Fine Scale Expo on November the 1st, or that's what, November 3 and 4. G3 and 4. I know we'll be there 3 and 4 for sure. But if you want to come up and say hey, we'd be glad to talk with you. I'll be wearing this shirt right here. YouTube Model Builders. Okay?
Model Builders.
So you'll be able to see me, spot me out pretty good.
Right.
Big Bill was coming, but unfortunately he had to back out. And I think Barry's supposed to be there, or he's going to try and be there. And his sidekick Mike, that was in the Barry's tech show, he's going to be there also. I don't know who all else that's here in the YouTube Model Builders community that'll be there, but hopefully we'll have some more people up there. So look around. You gonna wear your shirt, Andy? He's playing with his rubber snake.
All right, should be a good show. I ain't playing. I don't mess with no kind of snakes. I don't even like birds.
Yeah, I was
I don't like a
asking
snake
you.
for that.
Yeah, you gonna wear your YouTube Model Builder shirt so people can find you?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, Bill still got me once. I'm not falling for that again. So.
Johnny, they Circus City already has the decals on their website.
Okay, well, I mean, Split Rock said that they announced it on Facebook.
It took them like 8 hours. Seriously, 8 hours. Whoa.
Hey,
Not even that.
I know, that's amazing.
they fast.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Well, it's not really that much.
That's just showing off.
It's the American flag. It's a couple of stripes and UP logos for the
Camouflage.
most part. No, the camo is not there. The only thing that's there is the Coast Guard stripes and the Spirit of Union Pacific lettering.
So you got to do the
So
camera.
the blue,
How you gonna model without the
the
camo?
blue
Yeah,
Strategic
that's
Air Command is not there,
No, you're gonna have to do your own camo colors.
Wow.
and the blue stripe that's on the nose.
No, that is not part of the decal.
Oh, that's no good.
No.
Then his decal's not covering all the forces, because the front part is painted in silver, which is Air Force. Then it moved into Marines, and then it moved into
Yeah,
Army.
I guess he expects you to paint the silver, paint the gray and the blue and everything. And yeah, you're gonna have to paint your own camo.
I bet there's camo decal and sheet out there already.
There probably is.
Possible.
If not, there soon will be.
Call Dave's Decals.
Yeah.
I give him 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He'll have them out before then. But you're also, there's also 3 stripes in there, Ralph, that honor the U.S. Coast Guard.
Yeah, the red stripe racing stripe,
Yeah.
and the blue stripe
Red-
was Strategic Air Command.
Yeah.
They have a dedicated section to the Strategic Air Command, to the SAC.
It was the blue stripe coming down over the cab.
Cool.
Same stripe that they have on their planes.
Yeah, I was assigned, or I was attached to the SAC while I was in service.
All right, well, I guess we'll wind this one on up. We done hit an hour and a half here. So, another good show. Quite a variety of topics been talked about. Okay, let me go over here. We'll switch her over. So you want to go to YouTubeModelBuilders.com. There you can find the schedules for all the shows that we do. We have the Tuesday, Wednesday shows that are 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. The Thursday show and the Saturday live once a month show is 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. And we have a Saturday live show coming up this coming Saturday, the 21st. That's with Big Bill and Barry. His guest is Troy and Steve Montgomery. So you definitely want to watch that show. That's going to be good. Get caught up on Troy's layout. Steve's going to talk about some of the buildings that he built for Troy on his layout. So that'll be a good show there. Also, click on the eMag so you can sign up for email notifications. So when the eMag comes out, you can be notified of that. JD and his team do a good job on it. Like I said, there's a number of us going to the Fine Scale Expo in Altoona, PA. That's November 2, 3, and 4. November the 2nd, my understanding is that day's for paid clinics, and then you got the show on the 3rd and the 4th. And the 24th of this month, which will be next Tuesday, we've got our very own Mr. Ralph Rossetti here to do his show. This is going to be the first one of his installment of shows he's going to do on weathering. As you can see here, he's oh, you can't see. I got the splash screen up. But we're kind of calling it weathering, workbench to mainline. He's starting out at the beginning and going to go all the way through with it. So it's going to be a really good show. He's pretty much following the same guidelines as when he's giving clinics at shows. So it's going to be a good one. Something everybody will be interested in. So with that said, oh, don't forget, if you did miss the show, we do record all these, so they are on our YouTube channel. We do have playlists up there, make it easier to find. So go to YouTube.com and search YouTube Model Builders and find the playlist so you can watch the show, get caught up, or just go back and look for stuff you were interested in during the show. So with that said, I want to say appreciate you coming in. If you have comments on what you'd like to see in these shows or our Tuesday, Wednesday shows, please give us comments and let us know. So we can try and get this stuff put together for you. And I guess we'll see you Saturday night, 21st, 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern time for the Barry Big Bill show. Excuse me. So with that said, I will say good night. Y'all have a good weekend. Bye.